With the NFL season officially ending, it's time for spring to shine with the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. So with that being said, let's start with our defending champions, the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado Avalanche, 53-21-8. With finally winning the Stanley Cup after a 21-year drought, the Avalanche are on a bit of a bumpy road this season, not being as consistent as last season. However, they are still one of the top teams this year, as I expect them to have a major hot streak during the home stretch of the season to finish off strong and show the league that they are alive and ready to defend their title. Chicago Blackhawks, 25-48-9. Once again, the Blackhawks are one of the biggest jokes in the league. They had insult to injury, Blackhawks legend and future Hall of Famer Patrick Kane, who led the Blackhawks to 3 titles in 2010, 2013, and 2015, has been traded to the New York Rangers. But even with Kane this season, Chicago still sucked. So this part of the video is more of a dedication to Kane and his time on the Blackhawks. Good luck on the Rangers. St. Louis Blues, 38-37-7. The Blues, the 2019 Stanley Cup champions, turned their season around and won it all against the Bruins in 7 to get their first championship in franchise history. Now that I've butted them up with a compliment, it's time for the harsh truth. That season was a one-hit wonder. In 2020, COVID struck and they lost in the first round to the Canucks in 7. 2021 got swept by the Avalanche in the first round. Now last year, they beat the Cup-or-Nothing Minnesota Wild in 6. They managed to put up a fight against the Avalanche, but they lost 4-2 to Colorado. This season, they're even worse with a losing record and only 59 points in 62 games. Yikes. Arizona Coyotes, 24-47-11. Do I really need to explain it? It's the Coyotes. There are more words in this script right here than seats in the Coyotes arena, if you want to even call it that. The entire franchise is one big joke. Honestly, just relocate the team. Give me a new name, new everything. It's not like you can sell a team that's only worth $2 and a cup of coffee. So instead of breaking down their season, which is the same as all their seasons, straight garbage, I'm just going to give an idea of where to move them in their new name. The Houston Comets. It would fit given Houston's big market, and it fits right along with the names of Rockets and Astros. Winnipeg Jets, 50-27-5. Without a doubt, the Jets have taken the NHL world by storm, being one of the best teams all season. Having a top 12 offense and a top 10 defense, this year the Jets are arguably a favorite to come out as Cup champions, becoming the first Canadian team to win the Cup since the Canadiens in 1993. While lately there have been bumps in the road, like a 5-game losing streak from February 22nd to March 3rd of this year, which they broke by defeating the Oilers 7-5 on March 4th. They also had a 5-game winning streak from December 29th of last year to January 8th, 2023. Jets fans have had little to celebrate about, considering this is their 11th season in the NHL after being transferred from Atlanta. But this year, Winnipeg will become Win-Winnipeg. Nashville Predators, 38-35-9. Last year, the Preds were one and done in the postseason, despite there being 4 games in the series. Being obliterated by the Avalanche in the first round left a bad, cold taste in their mouths. And that taste is still there. The Preds are the definition of middle in the NHL this year, being 5th in the Central Division, 9th in the Western Conference, and 17th in the league. However, I just want to make it clear that the Preds aren't a garbage team. They're an okay team and when healthy, and really good when healthy. Unfortunately, being in the same division as Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota, things can get rough. But who knows? They are definitely wild card contenders, I can tell you that. Dallas Stars, 46-20-16. Last season, Dallas snuck in late in the season, getting the wild card 1 spot. They lost to Calgary in the first round, 4-3. Thankfully for Dallas, this season is going terrifically great for them, as now currently being the top of the Central Division by blown expectations. However, that isn't to say there haven't been problems this year. While great, they have had problems with losing to teams who suck. but they are still doing amazing this season, and hopefully they can prove the haters wrong. Minnesota Wild, 48, 28, and 6. Minnesota is one of the most exciting teams to watch all year in the NHL, especially with NHL All-Star Kirill Kasparov and future Hall of Famer Marc-Andre Fleury. With just that duo, you would think they would have won or at least appeared in the Stanley Cup. Nope, the Wild have always been hot in the regular season and then fall flat on their face in the playoffs in the first round. So why would they slow down now? The Wild are entertaining as and one of my personal favorite teams in the league. Plus, if they fall on their face again, in July of last year, they signed Marc-Andre Fleury to a 2-year deal. So MAF will be back next year for his 20th season. Alright, that does it for the Central Division. Now, according to the calculations, here's every point total in last place. We have a tie between the Coyotes and Blackhawks, who both finished with a total of 59 points. In 6th place is the St. Louis Blues with 83 points, a much higher total than Chicago and Arizona. Unfortunately, doesn't matter because being the bottom 3 teams in the division means they can't compete for a wild card spot. So Blues, Blackhawks, and Coyotes are out of playoff contention. Now for the teams that aren't guaranteed to be in the playoffs, but are in position for a wild card spot. In 5th place are the Nashville Predators with 85 points. Barely over St. Louis being 5th place. Means they can only compete for the wild card 2 spot. And even then, the only way to secure it is the 4th and 5th place teams in the Pacific Division both get less than 85. In 4th place, it's the Minnesota Wild with 102 points. Being very comfortable over Nashville with 100 plus points. Even in the 4th place team in the Pacific has more than 102 points, the Wild would still make the postseason as the wild card 2. Only way they can miss is if both the 4th and 5th in the Pacific have point totals over 102. Now, all NHL fans know this, but in case some don't, the top 3 teams in a division will automatically make the playoffs. So that means the Jets, Stars, and Avalanche will all clinch a postseason berth. The Jets will have 105 points, finishing 3rd in the division. And in the first round of the playoffs, they will face the 2nd place Dallas Stars with 108 points. Though the Stars have lost a lot more games than Winnipeg, a big chunk of those losses were in OT, which gave them enough points to stay above the Jets. And finally, with 114 points, the Colorado Avalanche will be the 2023 Central Division champs and will face one of the wildcard teams in the first round. Metropolitan Division. Columbus Blue Jackets 28, 47, and 7. The Blue Jackets made a huge blockbuster move early before the season by signing Calgary Flame free agent Johnny Gaudreau to a 7-year deal. However, the Blue Jackets are in a worse position than last year, despite adding Gaudreau with Lane and Merzlikins. They have the worst record and point total in the league. It also doesn't help that they lost Blue Jackets All-Star Oliver Bjorkstrand, who's on the Seattle Kraken, who's having a much better season than Columbus. Washington Capitals, 40, 35, and 7. The Capitals are without a doubt one of the best teams over the last 10 years. Players like TJ Oshie and the great eight himself, number 3 all-time in goals, Alex Ovechkin. In the Metro Division, the top teams are usually Washington, Pittsburgh, Carolina, and one New York team, while the other New York team is not so good. This season, both New York teams are doing well, and Washington isn't looking so well, being 15, 13, and 3 at home, and 16, 15, 3 away. Basically, the Eastern Conference Nashville Predators. They're 16th in the league and 9th in their conference. However, unlike Nashville, they probably wouldn't make the postseason regardless of who was good. It seems like their own fault for a poor season. New Jersey Devils, 53, 21, and 8. Holy this came out of nowhere. The Devils were predicted to be as mediocre as ever, finishing in the bottom 3 in the division, along with Philadelphia and Columbus. This season, they're in the top 5 odds to win it all. I'd expected Jersey to progress a little this season, but not by this much. Whereas Dallas went to the postseason last year and was expected to make it back, Jersey was projected to be in the bottom 10 of teams this year, seeming that the only thing for the franchise to look for is the draft lottery. But Jersey is finally returning to their 1993 to 2013 forms, looking to add trophy number 4. Philadelphia Flyers, 24, 46, and 12. The Flyers are just plain to not be worse than Columbus. They're 2-11 in overtime this season, and had a 10-game losing streak earlier this season. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happened again later this season. The only thing Flyers fans can look forward to is the draft lottery, ever since they collapsed in the 2020 playoffs against the Islanders, which seems like a fever dream. And something tells me if COVID didn't happen and the full 2020 season happened, the Flyers would have fallen out their competition, showing their true colors. And to make matters worse, in the current standing, the Flyers are the 7th worst, so they also have bad odds in the draft lottery. Bad record and bad odds in the draft lottery. That's a double whammy of sucking. Carolina Hurricanes, 60, 11, and 11. The Hurricanes are improving every single year with Martin Necas, Sebastian Aho, and Teuvo Teravainen. This team is showing no signs of slowing down. After losing in heartbreaking fashion in the conference semifinals to the Rangers last season, the Hurricanes signed NHL veteran Brent Burns from the San Jose Sharks, who leads the Hurricanes in assists this season with 38. They have the number 2 best goaltending in the league, and they're tied for the most shutouts this season with 7. Speaking of 7, they have the number 7 best offense in the league, making them one, if not the most balanced team in the league. New York Islanders, 44, 26, and 12. The Islanders, after a disappointing season last year, are back in Islander form. Okay during the regular season and gods in the postseason, but then losing in 7 to the Lightning in the Eastern Conference Finals. Matthew Barzal and Brock Nelson once again lead the team. Barzal with 37 assists. Brock Nelson leads the team in goals and points. Under goaltender Ilya Sorokin, the Islanders have the number 5 best defense in the league and are tied with the Hurricanes for most shutouts this season. They have very bad luck in shootouts this season, being 0-5, but if they make the postseason, they won't have to worry about that. Pittsburgh Penguins, 45, 24, and 13. Penguins are unfortunately regressing each year, as he went from back-to-back champions to back-to-back 3-1 blown leads in the first round. Once again led by Penguins GOAT, 3-time Stanley Cup champion and Hockey Hall of Famer Sidney Crosby, who leads the team in goals, points, and assists this season. Once being the ultimate kings of the Metropolitan Division, are now struggling for a wild card. As long as Sidney Crosby is there at Pittsburgh, Penguins will always have a fighting chance, even though in the last 2 years, they blew a 3-1 lead over both New York teams. New York Rangers, 54, 18, and 10. What a season it's been for the Rangers, picking up right where they left off last season. They came back from a 3-1 deficit against Penguins in the first round, took out the Hurricanes at home 6-2 in a Game 7. They came up close against the Lightning, losing the series 4-2, but the entire NHL world knew that without a doubt, they would be back. Star goalie 2022 Vezina Trophy winner Igor Shesterkin is a key part of the team with a solid goalkeeping job. Artemi Panarin has 72 points this season and is number 7 in assists this year with 53 assists, while Mika Zibanejad leading the team with 32 goals. And to make things even better, a week ago they signed hockey legend Patrick Kane, who will be a valuable asset to the team. The Rangers are in a full steam ahead battle with the Midwest, especially their city brother, the Islanders. Alright, that's it for the Metropolitan Division. Let's get to the totals. In last place with 60 points is the Philadelphia Flyers. The other thing they were fighting for was to be better than Columbus, but they couldn't even do that. In second last with 62 points is the Columbus Blue Jackets, barely above Philadelphia. Both of these teams equally suck, and it's impossible to believe that they can improve. The only thing exciting about these teams' futures is which one can be worse. Joining the bottom 3 for the first time since 2007, before the Jets, Golden Knights, and Kraken existed, is the Washington Capitals with 87 points. The last the Capitals were in the bottom parts of the division was before the division alignments in 2014. So the Flyers, Blue Jackets, and Capitals can't compete for a wildcard spot and will miss the postseason. Now for the two teams who aren't guaranteed a postseason spot, but can still make it as the wild cards. In 5th place, and can only compete for the wild card 2 spot with 100 points, is the New York Islanders. Just like the Predators, only way they can make it is if both 4th and 5th spot teams in the Atlantic don't have triple-digit points. In 4th place with 103 points is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Even though they're regressing, you can't deny that they're still strong and fighting to the last buzzer. Being the 4th seed, they are eligible for both wildcard spots. And now for the teams that are confirmed are the Rangers, the Hurricanes, and for the first time since 2017, the New Jersey Devils are in the postseason. The Devils are in 3rd place with 114 points, and their opponent in the first round with 118 points are the New York Rangers. That leaves the Carolina Hurricanes, the 2023 Metropolitan Divisional Champs, with 131 points. Atlantic Division, Boston Bruins, 64-11-7. The Bruins are by far the best team in the league this year. David Pastrnak leads the team in all 3 categories, 41 assists, 45 goals, 2nd best in the league with 86 points, 4th best in the league with Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron by his side for several reasons. The Bruins are still in their glory days. They also have the best tandem in the league. Number 1 in goals per game with 2.10 per game, and number 1 in save percentage with 93.1% save percentage. With frontrunner Vezina candidate Linus Ullmark, who is number 1 in goalie wins this season with a record as a starter, 32 wins, 4 losses, and 1 overtime loss. Montreal Canadiens, 28-47-7. After their miraculous 2021 postseason journey, they made it to the Stanley Cup final and lost to the Lightning 4-1. Some thought the Canadiens would lead a charge in the 2021-22 season, looking to claim Cup number 25. But to the shock of no one, they sucked. They sucked bad. Unfortunately, they ain't so good this year, having the 5th worst offense in the league, having their defense being ranked number 20, barely having a save percentage over 900. In the end, the entire NHL knows that 2021 was a fluke. Speaking of 2021 flukes, Tampa Bay Lightning, 53-21-8. Now, before you go to the comments saying and cry or salty, I'm not saying the Lightning are a bad team. Not even close. They're one of the top 10 teams in the NHL. But it's a bit strange that their Stanley Cup championships in 2020 and 2021 are all in different playoff formats. In 2020, when COVID struck the NHL, expanding the playoff format to 2014 and the bubble, and Tampa won the whole thing against Dallas in 6. The next year in 2021, the entire season was structured differently, with a bunch of changes, and the postseason where it was the top 4 teams in each division with no wild cards. They beat Montreal in 5. They're still a great team with lots of stars, and were the runner-up last year against the Avalanche. They have the number 6 offense in the league and have the 3rd best power play percentage. Nikita Kucherov is leading the team and is in 2nd place in assists in the league with 69, and 3rd most points behind Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid with 95. Toronto Maple Leafs, 52-19-11. Well, if it ain't the Toronto Maple Leafs, haven't made it past the first round in nearly 20 years, and haven't won a Stanley Cup since the dinosaurs were alive. But in all seriousness, the Maple Leafs are actually a great team, if you ignore the postseason. Mitchell Marner leads the team with points and the 4th most assists in the league, with William Nylander and Austin Matthews by his side, who command the 2nd best power play percentage in the league. Florida Panthers, 43-32-7. Last season's President Trophy winners are struggling a lot. Being heavily favored to win the Cup earlier this year, they have the 9th best offense in the league, but that doesn't help their case, being number 1 in penalty minutes, with 815 minutes. That's 13 hours and 35 minutes being down a man, giving the other team a more likely chance to score. That plus the 19th ranked goaltending equals the 27th ranked penalty kill, allowing 3.36 goals per game. Detroit Red Wings, 33-41-8. Detroit is in their usual spot as usual since 2017, in the bottom of the league and slightly better than the Habs. Dylan Larkin leads the team in all 3 offensive categories, 25 goals, 39 assists, and 64 points. As for the goaltending, it's even worse, in a 3-way tie for 23rd ranked save percentage. is 18th ranked in goals allowed with 2.92 goals per game. There's nothing else to say about them except for the fact that they suck and there's no way to tell if things will get different for better or worse. It seems like they will be a mid-30s win team for a while to come. Buffalo Sabres, 32, 45, and 5. Buffalo is slowly making a case for themselves as a top 13 team in the NHL. Full of young stars and able to gain more in the 2023 draft. With 8 picks, 2 of them being in the second round, 1 of them being from Philadelphia. The Sabres are led by Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin, who together rank Buffalo as the 3rd best offense in the league and the 5th best power play goal percentage. Dahlin leads the team in assists, plus minus, and the one no player wants penalty minutes. Thompson has the 6th most goals in the league with 42 and is tied for 5th place in points in the league with Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers with 87 points. Buffalo suffers the fate of being in the Atlantic Division with Boston, Toronto, Tampa, and Florida. With Florida on the downfall, it's now the perfect time for them to attack. Ottawa Senators, 33, 44, and 5. The last and least talked about team in the Atlantic Division, Ottawa hasn't done crap since their Game 7 loss to the Penguins in the Eastern Conference Finals in the 2017 postseason. Ever since, they've been one of the bottom feeders in the NHL in the past half-decade. Though they have been making progress. In the last week of February, they've been on a 5-game winning streak, gaining 10 points. Left wing Tim Stuzzle leads the team in goals 34 and points 73. The future is uncertain for Ottawa, but as long as Boston, Toronto, and Tampa rule with an iron fist, it seems impossible for anyone to put up a fight for the divisional crown. Speaking of division crown, let's get to the point. The Atlantic Division is now complete. Let's calculate and reveal who's in and who's out, and who's the champion of the Atlantic Division. In last place with 63 points is the Montreal Canadiens, stuck in the bottom of the division again. In second last is the Buffalo Sabres with 69 points, the 3rd ranked offense in the season thus far, and are only able to finish with 6 points over Montreal, but they will make a bigger difference next year. And wrapping out the bottom 3 is once again the Ottawa Senators with 71 points. For the past 5 years, the Canadiens, Senators, Red Wings, and Sabres have been fighting for the 5th spot, the top 4 usually being Tampa, Boston, Florida, and Toronto, and it usually revolves around the carousel. Last year, the 5th spot was Buffalo. The year before, it was Montreal. This year, the 5th spot will go to the Detroit Red Wings with 74 points. The Red Wings finish as champions of the Barrel and the Atlantic as they claim the possibility of a playoff spot. In 4th, the wildcard one is the Florida Panthers with 93 points. Last year's President's Trophy winner, the award for most points / best team in the regular season, with 122 points, have not fallen 29 points, making them eligible for a wild card. Now for the top 3, and by no surprise, is the Maple Leafs, Bruins, and Lightning. In the 3rd spot is the Tampa Bay Lightning with 114 points. They will face the 2nd place Toronto Maple Leafs with 115 points. Only 1 point ahead. Holy fucking shit. In the first round. A rematch of last year's round 1, the exact same thing, the 2022 and 2023 playoffs. The Atlantic 3rd Lightning will face the Atlantic 2 Maple Leafs 2 years in a row in the same round. And finally, to the surprise of no one, in the first with 135 points are the Boston Bruins, the number 1 team in the NHL without a doubt. Now to the final division, the Pacific Division. Vancouver Canucks, 27, 47, and 8. In the 2020 postseason, the Canucks made it to the semifinals after upsetting the defending champion St. Louis Blues and lost to Vegas in 7, almost making it to the Western Conference Final in 2020 against the Stars. The closest the Canucks ever came to hoisting the Stanley Cup was in 2011, when they lost in 7 to Boston, and then Canucks fans proceeded to destroy their own city. This season, they are nowhere close to a wild card spot, much less cup contenders, though there have been positives like defenseman Quinn Hughes and center Elias Peterson, who are in the top 10 for assists. Besides that, not much else. Anaheim Ducks, 21, 52, and 90. The Ducks suck. That's it. Second worst offense and the worst defense in the league, without a doubt. Went on a 7-game losing streak and were eliminated before the damn Coyotes. Good news is, with a terrible record, they have a better chance for the number 1 overall pick to add with Trevor Zegras and Josh Gibson. And even if they have the number 1 pick, it'll be several years before they make playoff contention. Calgary Flames, 41, 28, and 13. After losing star player Johnny Gaudreau, Tyler Toffoli was left to lead the team after a disappointing postseason run, where they lost in 6 in the Western Conference semifinals to the Oilers. Toffoli leads the team in points and goals, with new recruit from the Florida Panthers superstar center Jonathan Huberdeau, who's having a good year but not as good as last year, where he played 80 games and scored 115 points. And Elias Lindholm completes the trio, leading the team in assists. Vegas Golden Knights, 49-24-9. After a disappointing year last season, missing the postseason for the first time in franchise history, the Knights are back in their shining form, currently at the top of the division. Former Sabres player Jack Eichel has proven himself to be just as useful in Vegas as he was in Buffalo. Eichel leads the team in goals and points, while Chandler Stephenson leads in the assists category. Veteran players John Marchessault and Mark Stone backing up Eichel and Stephenson. The tandem of Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill make the 6th best save percentage in the league. Los Angeles Kings, 48-26-8. The 2012-2014 Stanley Cup champions are an amazing team with no doubt in mind. Led by an all-star lineup consisting of Kevin Fiala, Anze Kopitar, Andre Kempe, and Alexei Fialo, who are set to have an even better season than last season, after losing in the first round to the Oilers in Game 7. Last year, the Kings were set to become something more, having a 5-game winning streak at one moment of the season, top 10 offense all season, and the number 2 power play percentage. As for the goaltending job of Phoenix Cawley, when he's a starter, he has a record of 23 wins, 4 losses, and 3 losses in overtime, and he has an 89% save percentage. Seattle Kraken, 50-23-9. After an embarrassing inaugural season last year, going 27-49-6, being a bottom 5 team in their first season, unlike the latest NHL team before Seattle, their division rival, the Vegas Golden Knights, who in their inaugural season reached the Stanley Cup final. This year, the Kraken have done a complete 180, being one of the best teams this year, having one of the most prolific offenses all season in the league, led by defenseman Vince Dunn, who leads the team in 2 offensive categories, 61 points and 48 assists, and Jarek McCann leading in the goals category, together making the number 4 ranked offense in the league. As for the goaltending job, it's not as good as the offense, ranked 30th in save percentage with a percentage of .888. Edmonton Oilers, 45-26-11. Last year, the Oilers finally shut up the haters by making the Western Conference Finals, after upsetting the Calgary Flames in 6 games in the conference semifinals. The Oilers are one of the only teams who are a danger to the Bruins, especially with two of the top 5 players, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Connor McDavid, who's the front runner for the MVP award, being number 1 in all offensive categories, not just on the Oilers, but most goals, assists, and points in the league. Draisaitl is number 4 in goals, number 3 in assists, and number 2 and 2nd in points. That with McDavid's stats is what gives Edmonton the number 1 ranked offense and number 1 ranked power play percentage. As for goaltending, it could be better, being in the bottom 10 in save percentage, but things should work out for better than worse with the number 1 offense. San Jose Sharks, 23-46-11. After losing star left wing Evander Kane to the just talked about Oilers, it confirmed that the 2019 magical run in the postseason would be a while before something like that would happen again, being the very first team to be eliminated from playoff contention this season. So on the bright side, they'll have pretty good odds in the draft lottery for the number 1 overall pick. That does it for the Pacific Division and all 32 teams. Let's count the numbers and look at the standings for the Pacific Division. In last place with 51 points is the Anaheim Ducks, having the lowest point total out of all 32 teams. In second last with 59 points is the San Jose Sharks, and rounding out the bottom 3 is the Vancouver Canucks with 62 points. So the eliminated teams are Ducks, Canucks, and Sharks. Now for the wildcard teams. In 5th place with a whopping 33 points over Vancouver, it's the Calgary Flames, who after being a top 3 defense and Pacific Division champions, are now fighting for table scraps, as the only spot left is the second wild card, facing the number 1 team in the conference. 4th place, and the last team available to clinch a wild card with 101 points, is the Edmonton Oilers, who despite having Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, still can't capture the Pacific Crown. Now for the teams that are confirmed a playoff spot are the Kings, Kraken, and Knights. In 3rd place with 104 points is the LA Kings, who will face the 2nd place Vegas Golden Knights with 107. Which means that the Seattle Kraken are the Pacific Division champions, From last to first, they beat Vegas for the crown by 1 game. So before we reveal the 8 teams competing for a wild card spot, let's run over our division champions. In the Central Division, we have the Colorado Avalanche. In the Metropolitan Division, we have the Carolina Hurricanes. In the Atlantic Division, we have the Boston Bruins. And in the Pacific Division, we have the Seattle Kraken. Now let's get to the 8 teams that are fighting to face the second and first seed conference teams. Now for the wildcard teams to see who's in and who's not. In the 7th seed wildcard 1 with 103 points, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins. In last place, missing the playoffs, it's the Detroit Red Wings with 74 points. That leaves our 2 teams to be New York and Florida. And the team who will make the postseason with 100 points is the New York Islanders. And with that being said, this is the official look of the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now for the Western Conference wildcard teams, we have Nashville, Edmonton, Calgary, and Minnesota. This 7th seed / wildcard 1 facing the Seattle Kraken is the Minnesota Wild. In last place for 10th place, missing the playoffs with 85 points, is the Nashville Predators. That leaves us down to 2 teams, Edmonton and Calgary. And the person going to the playoffs to face the Colorado Avalanche are the Edmonton Oilers with 101 points. With all that being revealed, this is the Western Conference playoffs. 32 teams, 4 divisions, and now we have our final 16 teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Edmonton Oilers, Colorado Avalanche, Minnesota Wild, Seattle Kraken, Dallas Stars, Winnipeg Jets, Los Angeles Kings, Vegas Golden Knights, Boston Bruins, New York Islanders, Pittsburgh Penguins, Carolina Hurricanes, New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils, and the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Western Conference quarterfinals, Edmonton Oilers versus Colorado Avalanche. In a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals, McDavid and Drysdale aim to get revenge on Colorado, while Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar look to repeat as champions. Here's how the series will go. Even though Edmonton has a top 3 offense, their goaltending is nowhere close to mediocrity, it being very much worse. And just like last year, Colorado will win games 1, 2, 3, and 4, sweeping Edmonton. Colorado wins series 4-0. Minnesota Wild versus Seattle Kraken. The Kraken make the playoffs for the first time in franchise history, winning the division, being the 2nd seed in the West. After being last in the division in their inaugural season, this is how it's gonna go. Seattle will win games 1 and 2 at home, then the Wild will win game 3 to cut Seattle's series lead in half, 2-1. Game 4 is where Seattle would shake off their game 3 loss to take a 3-1 series lead over Minneapolis. Then game 5 at Seattle, Minnesota will win game 5 to stay alive, only to be taken out at home in game 6. Seattle wins series 4-2. Winnipeg Jets versus Dallas Stars. Both of these teams have made major jumps in improvement this season. The Dallas is inconsistent against playoff teams, and Winnipeg has fallen off a little, but only one can move on. The Jets will win game 1 at Dallas, then Dallas will tie the series at 1 apiece. Then Winnipeg will win both game 3 and game 4 at home, take a 3-1 series lead, but Dallas will take games 5 and 6 to force a game 7 at Dallas, where Winnipeg will win to move on to the semifinals. Winnipeg wins series 4-3 to face Colorado. Los Angeles Kings versus Vegas Golden Knights. It's a battle of royalty as Kempe, Kopitar, Fialo, and Fiala take on Eichel, Stone, Stephenson, and Marchessault. The Kings will take Game 1 at Vegas in overtime, but Vegas will come back to win Game 2 and Game 3 to lead the series 2-1. But the Kings are strong enough to take care of Vegas, and will hold out Vegas, winning Games 4, 5, and 6 to win the series. Kings win series 4-2. Eastern Conference quarterfinals, New York Islanders versus Boston Bruins. The Islanders are back in the playoffs after a disappointing 2022 season, but unfortunately they have to face the best team in the league by far, the Bruins. This series will be easy for Boston, winning the first 3 games to take a 3-0 series lead, but the Islanders will win Game 4 at home, to avoid a sweep, but Boston will just win in Game 5, beating the Islanders without breaking a sweat. Boston wins series 4-1. Pittsburgh Penguins vs. Carolina Hurricanes. Battle of two generations. Sidney Crosby vs. Sebastian Aho. 2016 and 2017 champions face off against the back-to-back-to-back division champs. The Hurricanes will win Game 1 and Game 2 at home, but Pittsburgh will also win their first two home games at Pittsburgh, to tie the series 2-2. Carolina will win Game 5 at home, making the first 5 game winners the home team, but the Hurricanes will snap that streak by winning Game 6 in Pittsburgh. To win the series in 6, Carolina wins series 4-2. Tampa Bay Lightning vs. Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs and Lightning meet in the playoffs once again. Tampa on a journey to claim their third championship in 4 years, while Toronto is trying to make it past the first round for the first time since 2004. Toronto will win Game 1 at home just for Tampa to win Games 2 and 3 in Toronto and Tampa, but Toronto gets revenge by winning Game 4 in Tampa Bay. Then Tampa will win Game 5 in Toronto, and in Game 6, Toronto will win in Tampa Bay, forcing a Game 7, where the Toronto Maple Leafs will finally make it closer to a 20-year drought of not making the second round by losing Game 7 to the Lightning. Tampa Bay wins series 4-3. New Jersey Devils vs. New York Rangers. It's a battle of the Hudson River as the Devils face the Rangers. The Rangers will win both their home games, taking a 2-0 series lead, just for the Devils to win Game 3 and 4 in Newark, with to tie it the streak of the home team winning each game will continue as the Rangers win Game 5 and the Devils win Game 6, and in Game 7, the Rangers will continue the streak of the home team winning each game by winning Game 7 at Madison Square Garden. New York wins the series 4-3. Western Conference Semifinals. Winnipeg Jets vs. Colorado Avalanche. Two Central teams remain for what's basically the Central Division Championship. Game 1 and 2, Colorado will be victorious, taking a 2-0 series lead, but Winnipeg will win the next 3 games to take a 3-2 series lead. The Avalanche will stop the Jets' winning streak, winning Game 6 in Winnipeg to force a Game 7. And in Game 7, with a trip to the 2023 Western Conference Finals on the line, the Winnipeg Jets will shock the world by upsetting the defending champions to move on to the Western Conference Finals. Winnipeg wins series 4-3. Los Angeles Kings vs. Seattle Kraken. The last two Pacific teams remaining will face Winnipeg in the Western Conference Finals. These two teams are very similar when it comes to goaltending. Both have a bottom 5 save percentage. The Kings will win Game 1 in Seattle to take a 1-0 series lead, but Seattle ultimately has the better offense, which in a series of weak save percentages, the Kraken win the next 4 games, winning the series, moving on to face Winnipeg. Seattle wins the series 4-1. Eastern Conference Semifinals. Tampa Bay Lightning vs. Boston Bruins. The President's Trophy winner versus the back-to-back-to-back Eastern Conference champions. Boston will walk away with Game 1 in overtime. Kucherov, Stamkos, and Vasilevsky will win Game 2 to tie the series, heading to Tampa Bay, where the Lightning will take a 2-1 series lead in Game 3. Boston will win Game 4 with a shutout performance by Linus Ullmark, only for the Lightning and Andrei Vasilevsky to get exact revenge by shutting out the Bruins in Game 5 at Boston. Tampa up 3-2 in the series, the Bruins must win, as thankfully they have the number 1 offense and defense in the league, as they win Game 6 and Game 7 to win the series, ending the Lightning dynasty for now. Boston wins series 4-3. New York Rangers vs. Carolina Hurricanes. A rematch of last year's Eastern semifinals where the Hurricanes and Rangers once again face each other. Game 1 and 2, Carolina will secure a comfortable 2-0 series lead, just for New York to tie it by winning the next 2 games. Carolina wins at home in Game 5, then the Rangers win Game 6 to force a Game 7. This series will basically be the same as the Rangers-Devils series, but with one major difference, as the away team New York Rangers will win Game 7, advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. New York wins series 4-3. Western Conference Finals. Winnipeg Jets vs. Seattle Kraken. Seattle's first postseason appearance has been a great one, but it could continue, or will it be stopped by the Jets? Game 1, the Jets will win, stunning the crowd in Seattle, but in Game 2, the crowd will be much more ecstatic as the Kraken win Game 2 to even the series, getting closer to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Jets and Kraken will split the Winnipeg series as well, Jets winning Game 3 and Seattle winning Game 4. Game 5 back in Seattle, the Jets will win, being closer than ever to the Stanley Cup Final, being the Western Conference champions. And then in Game 6, the city of Winnipeg will be rioting with smiles as the Jets make it to their first ever Stanley Cup appearance by beating the Kraken in Game 6. Winnipeg wins the series 4-2. Eastern Conference Finals, New York Rangers versus Boston Bruins. The best team in hockey remains as they face the New York Rangers. Boston will have a bit more challenge, winning Game 1 and Game 2 in OT. In Game 3, the Rangers will cut the Bruins series lead in half by winning in OT in Madison Square Garden. But Boston is, well, I can't put into words how great this team is, but they'll show it by winning Game 4 to take a 3-1 series lead. Then Game 5 at D Garden, the Bruins will win the Eastern Conference Finals, turn the chance against the Jets for the Stanley Cup. Boston wins series 4-1. Stanley Cup Finals, Winnipeg Jets versus Boston Bruins. After 32 teams, 4 divisions, and 14 playoff series, it all comes down to this. It's the Western Conference champions, Winnipeg Jets, against the Eastern Conference champions, Boston Bruins. Here we go. Game 1, Winnipeg 2, Boston 5. Boston leads finals 1-0. Game 2, Winnipeg 2, Boston 4. Boston leads finals 2-0. Game 3, Boston 3, Winnipeg 4. Boston leads finals 2-1. Game 4, Boston 2, Winnipeg 0. Boston leads finals 3-1. Game 5, Winnipeg 2, Boston 4. Boston wins finals 4-1. The Boston Bruins will win the Stanley Cup in 5. Well, over the last few years, it's been a close one. This one will be no challenge for Boston, with Finals MVP David Pastrnak as the Boston wins the championship for the 7th time. Hey guys, so this is it. This is me from April 6, 2023. The picks and predictions and playoffs you just heard were predicted on March 6 earlier this year. So today, most of those are already wrong, especially on the West side. But, these picks were a month ago. In early March, these would be a most likely good scenario. But now on April, especially with Seattle and Winnipeg being the 2 wildcard spots, they're most likely not going to make it through the Western Conference Finals. But hey, anything can happen. So that's why most of these are effed up. And if you don't believe me, when I made the script right here, it said it was made on March 6, 1:24 p.m. So I started typing this script a month ago, and I've been recording it ever since. And I wasn't going to change the entire script, because if I did, I would have to do it each and every day, changing things and changing the words and then re-recording. And that just wasn't worth the hassle, especially because I have school and I have a job now. And, I want to spend time with my family, so that's why most things are wrong. NBA playoff predictions will be soon, and a very special theory video coming sometime this month. I promise that. And see you guys next time.